Alice Coltrane's life was as deeply spiritual as it was musically revolutionary, but it was also marked by controversy, misunderstanding, and intense personal transformation. From the moment she stepped into the spotlight beside her husband, jazz legend John Coltrane, Alice became a lightning rod for criticism. When she replaced pianist McCoy Tyner in John's quintet in 1966, some critics and purists reacted harshly. They accused her of disrupting the group's classic sound and even blamed her for influencing John's move toward more experimental, avant-garde music. In a dismissive and often sexist critique, she was labeled the Yoko Ono of jazz, a comparison that reduced her artistic contributions to mere interference rather than innovation. The backlash intensified in 1972 with the release of Infinity, an album that combined previously recorded tracks by John Coltrane with new orchestral arrangements added by Alice. While she viewed the project as a continuation of shared musical ideas between her and her late husband, critics condemned it as blasphemous, arguing that she had tampered with sacred material. For Alice, however, the work was an act of devotion, not distortion. Her personal life also became a subject of concern and controversy, particularly during the period following John Coltrane's death in 1967. Overcome with grief, Alice entered a phase of intense spiritual discipline known as tapas. During this time, she practiced extreme asceticism, fasting for long periods, sleeping very little, and engaging in acts of self-inflicted pain, including cutting and burning her skin. She believed these acts were a way to purify her spirit and transcend sorrow, though to outsiders they appeared alarming and self-destructive. Alice also fiercely guarded her husband's legacy, leading to legal disputes. In 1981, she filed a lawsuit against the Church of St. John Coltrane in San Francisco, arguing that the organization was using John's name and likeness without authorization. While some saw the lawsuit as protective and necessary, others viewed it as controversial given the church's spiritual reverence for John's work. Even her musical abilities were often unfairly questioned. Some critics dismissed her compositions as incoherent or overly mystical, suggesting that her recognition stemmed primarily from her association with John Coltrane. These critiques overlooked her groundbreaking work, particularly her innovative use of the harp in jazz and her distinctive manipulation of the organ to create entirely new sonic textures. Yet, despite the criticism, Alice Coltrane remained unwavering in her artistic and spiritual vision. She was born Alice Lucille McLeod on August 27, 1937, in Detroit, Michigan, the fifth of 6 children in a family rooted in both faith and music. Her father, William Solon McLeod, was a factory truck driver and World War I veteran, while her mother, Anna McLeod, sang in the church choir and nurtured Alice's early musical development. Surrounded by creativity, Alice grew up alongside siblings who would also leave their mark on the music world, including her half-brother Ernest Farrow, a jazz bassist, and her sister Marilyn McLeod, a successful Motown songwriter. Alice's musical journey began early. By the age of 7, she was studying classical piano, and by 9, she was already playing organ in church. Her education combined rigorous classical training, studying composers like Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Rachmaninoff, and Stravinsky, with exposure to jazz through her brother and Detroit's vibrant music scene. She attended Cass Technical High School, known for its strong music program, and was also active in concert bands during her time at Northeastern High School. Although she earned a scholarship to the Detroit Institute of Technology, Alice chose a different path, turning it down to pursue music more directly. In 1959, she moved to Paris, where she studied under legendary bebop pianist Bud Powell and performed at the Blue Note Jazz Club. This period helped shape her early professional identity as a skilled jazz pianist. In the early 1960s, she returned to the United States and joined vibraphonist Terry Gibbs' quartet, where she first met John Coltrane. Their connection was immediate and profound, both musically and spiritually. They married in 1965 and had 3 sons together, John Jr., Ravi, and Oranjan, while John also adopted Alice's daughter, Michelle, from her earlier marriage to jazz vocalist Kenny Pancho Hagood. After John Coltrane's death in 1967, Alice entered a new phase of her life and career. She became a leading figure in what would later be called spiritual jazz, blending traditional jazz with elements of Indian music, gospel, and Eastern philosophy. Albums like A Monastic Trio, 1968, and Journey in Satchidananda, 1971, showcased her unique sound, with the harp becoming one of her signature instruments, an unusual choice in jazz at the time. In the mid-1970s, her focus shifted even further toward spirituality. She founded the Vedantic Center in California, later known as the Sai Antam Ashram, and adopted the name Turiya Sangeetandand. For decades, she served as a spiritual leader, producing devotional music primarily for her followers and stepping away from the commercial music industry. After more than 2 decades, she returned to the public eye with the 2004 album Translinear Light, reaffirming her enduring influence and artistic vitality. Alice Coltrane died of respiratory failure on January 12, 2007, at the age of 69. She passed away in Los Angeles and was laid to rest beside John Coltrane in New York. In the years since her death, her legacy has only grown stronger. Once criticized and misunderstood, Alice Coltrane is now celebrated as a visionary, an artist who expanded the boundaries of jazz and redefined it as a vehicle for spiritual expression.